Travel Michigan. I'm Dave Lorenz, along with Michelle Grinnell. As we continue to take a little tour around Michigan, we get to learn about a fun event coming soon to one of our major attractions.
We do, and we are going to talk with Tom Veritek, who's the Senior Manager of Museum Operations at the Henry Ford, about the Women Who Rock exhibit. But we also just want to talk about the museum itself. I recently had a chance to do the Greenfield Village tour in a Model T, which I hadn't done before, which was phenomenal. And the village has just opened up. So, Tom, welcome to the show. And before we get into the Women Who Rock exhibit, on the off chance that any of our listeners haven't been to the Henry Ford Museum, Greenfield Village, Rouge Plant, just give a brief overview of what they can find when they come.
All right. Well, we are an indoor-outdoor museum that also has a factory tour, so you can see final assembly of the F-150 truck, and we have an IMAX theater. Now, the indoor museum portion is the Henry Ford Museum, and it has exhibits that talk about, well, ordinary people, but also ordinary people who've done the extraordinary, and in doing so, changing the world. So you'll see planes, trains, automobiles, but you'll also see heating stoves and anything that would impact daily life and show everyday innovation for the people who've lived in the United States, including right up to the present. And, of course, Greenfield Village, Henry Ford didn't just collect artifacts, he collected buildings, too, and he assembled those into our Greenfield Village, which comes to life, where we basically bring 300 years of American history to life. You can ride a train, as you mentioned. You can ride on a Model T, take a horse-drawn vehicle ride through the village, or just go door to door and visit all the buildings where you'll see living history and some amazing sites like Thomas Edison's Menlo Park Laboratory, the Wright Brothers Cycle Shop, as well as the Henry Ford birthplace.
And Tom, you know, Michigan certainly has played an incredible role in the ongoing story of the American experience. But the thing about the Henry Ford is, unlike most museums in the state, you do so much more than just tell that part of the story. You really tell the entire American experience story.
That's right. It is a national museum. Our collection is a national collection. Of course, a lot of it does center around Henry, which, of course, is from Michigan, from Dearborn. But we really branch out beyond that. Again, the stories of the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison, and we still tell those stories all the way up to Rosa Parks and even Bill Gates today. You'll find all those stories in the museum in the village. So it is a national museum with a national collection. And one of the things I get a chance to do is show people around a little bit who aren't from here. And I think they're just blown away that what we have here, both experience-wise and collection-wise, rivals any museum in the country for sure.
If you were to be asked, what one word best describes, the people and the stories that you tell, would it be innovation?
I would say I'd say inspiration, but I think innovation is what sort of glues all those stories together. I think when the museum is really hitting on all cylinders, you can't help but be inspired by these folks who were resourceful, who were innovative, those stories end up being, I think, inspiring. So hopefully inspiring is right up there at the top. But I would say innovation is sort of a theme that runs through all the stories for sure.
Well, you guys are going to be looking at that in a whole new way with a new exhibit coming May 17th that will be there through August 17th. And certainly the Detroit area is known as a place for music and music culture and where Motown got its start and electronic music got its start. So talk a little bit about this new Women Who Rock exhibit coming to the Henry Ford.
Yeah, we're very excited. Again, if you think of innovation being one of the theme, innovation takes forms other than just being technological innovation. Innovation is all about ideas and a new way of thinking about things. And this Women Who Rock vision, power, passion, and power comes to us from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who doesn't know rock and roll better, right? And it comes in and it really chronicles the story of not only women's rock contribution to rock and roll, but it really takes you from really the 1920s all the way up to the present, and sort of how these innovative rockers have not only impacted music, but also impacted us culturally and as a society.
Well, Tom, you always have an innovative way to present the various stories that you showcase, and I would guess that the same is going to be the case here with the Women Who Rock exhibit.
Well, like I said, it does chronicle the history of rock. So you'll see some really cool exhibitry as well as some great artifacts. There's 70 different artists that are featured in the exhibit, 250 artifacts, and sort of an interactive exhibit that, I think when it's, again, firing on all cylinders should be pretty inspiring for our guests.
Who are some of the artists that folks will see in the exhibit or learn about in the exhibit?
Okay. Well, like I said, it goes all the way back to the very beginning. So you hear you'll hear about some folks that maybe aren't as well known: Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, but even Billie Holiday and Mahalia Jackson.
Oh yeah.
Really tracing rock and roll from its very roots, and this sort of spirit of women rockers, and sort of the people that inspired those that really brought about rock and roll. And I think another time that the museum is successful is when generations can sort of share a story together. A lot of times people call it past forward, but when, no matter how old you are and what role you play in the family, if part of your story is told in an exhibit, boy, it becomes that much more powerful when a family can share back and forth. So we don't end at Billie Holiday, Mahalia Jackson. We move on all the way up through Wanda Jackson and Brenda Lee, up through Janis Joplin and Aretha Franklin, then all the way up to Chrissie Hynde, Debbie Harry, Susie Sue, Yoko Ono, and finally up with Meg White and Lady Gaga.
Well, it's kind of fascinating to me that you mention people like Billie Holiday that I would never have thought of as kind of a rock and roller, but, all these genres of music get their start from another genre of music, and apparently you're kind of telling that story. That's
right. I think, our other word that we're using as a theme today is this idea of inspiration. And again, I think some of the things that Mahalia Jackson, Billie Holiday, Bessie Smith even had to face, and the groundbreaking nature that rock and roll has taken at different eras, you can see why these stories, when you see the exhibit, why they'd be an inspiration to people like Tina Turner and Grace Slick a generation later, or even a generation after that with Queen Latifah.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great exhibit. Opens up May 17th, Women Who Rock. And is this in that kind of that temporary exhibit space as you enter the Henry Ford to the, I guess it would be kind of the left over by the school?
Hey, you got it. You know our campus. So, yes, it is in Henry Ford Museum, and as you mentioned, opens May 17th. Many people may have come out to see Titanic. Now, that exhibit had an additional fee, but this one is actually free with admission to the Henry Ford. So, as always, free to our members entirely. But once you pay that museum ticket, you not only get all the great stories that we mentioned earlier, but you'll also get these inspiring stories that come to us from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, of course, Tom, I know it's going to be a great exhibit, as you guys do so many things so well. The IMAX, the Henry Ford, Greenfield Village, the whole experience at the Rouge plant. There's a reason why the Henry Ford is the #1 attraction in Michigan, and that's because you guys do so many things so very well. So best of luck with the Women Who Rock exhibit, May 17th through August 17th. And if you'd like more information about this special exhibit or about the Henry Ford and the entire campus operation, just go to thehenryford.org for more information. Thanks to Tom Veritek, Senior Manager, Museum Operations at the Henry Ford. Of course, special events like Women Who Rock always happening there at the Henry Ford. There are a lot of other events happening around the state, Michelle.
There absolutely are. And, while we're talking about history and museums, in the West Michigan, the Tri-River region, this weekend, 25 museums and the Tri-River Historical Museum Network have their Spring into the Past tour, where you can check out all of those museums. There are in Berry County, Ionia County, Kent County, and Montcalm County. So if you happen to be out and about, stop in and see one of those. It is also next weekend on May 9th in South Haven is Farm History Day, offering folks a chance to learn about life on a rural farm in the early 1900s. Pontiac Regional Chamber is hosting its carnival through May 11th. There's going to be live entertainment. There's a sock hop, a car cruise, so check that out. Benton Harbors is going to host America's favorite zookeeper, Jack Hanna's Into the Wild on May 9th. And for the morel hunters out there, you'll want to be sure to check out Mesic Mushroom Festival the 9th through 11th with celebrations including a grand parade and a carnival and obviously lots of morel mushrooms. Moms fly free at Boyne Falls. Looking for something to do Mother's Day weekend? Send your mom on a free zip line ride up at Boyne. And Michigan Beer and Wine Fest is taking over Michigan International Speedway May 10th. And last but not least, it's National Training Day in Bangor on the 10th. So check out michigan.org for more information on all of these events and many, many more.
Well, over in that east part of the state, you have communities like Bay City, Birch Run, over there, Chesaning, Frankenmuth, Midland, Saginaw. There's one thing that brings them all together, and we'll tell you what that is next, right here on Travel Michigan, where your trip begins at michigan.org.